Eddie, don't say anything to Steve about turning 30.
Wasn't planning on it.
Be careful with those.
Hey, Dad.
How are you, Tiger?
Hey, Davey. How are you, brother? Hey, Matt, how you doing? All right? Steve? Got a cold, man?
Nah, just cancer.
So, Dad, I've been thinking.
Uh-oh.
What if I bring Granny home with me to L.A.? Just hear me out for a
Eddie,
second.
what do you want from me?
Man, you'll get off. First offense at your age.
Technically, it's not my first offense.
Take it from me. There's far worse sin than selling dope.
What do you mean?
I mean, like making people feel small. So, why can't she come stay with y'all? She hates the place, Dad.
Cherokee Rose is the finest facility of its kind in 100 miles.
Have you even asked Mom what she thinks?
I don't need to. Nice one, Dad.
Thank you. You want to get out of here?
You bet I do.
Hurry up. Gotta do it. What is it?
My walker.
You don't need it.
The hell I don't.
We'll get you another one.
Get it.
Indeed.
How'd you come out of the trailer and appear right in front of us?
Movie magic.
He did that wardrobe change really quick.
I brought the beanie.
By the way, that trailer had a Bobby Wynick quote.
That's fantastic.
A quick one in there.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't notice that the first time I watched the trailer.
How many times have I pointed out in our conversations?
There's great footage of I mean, we spent hours with Bobby Wygant at festivals. Like, she loved this movie. And at the time, I knew when we were a kid here in Texas, Bobby Wygant interviewed everybody. When Spielberg, he was in Dallas. Spielberg was in Dallas with Bobby Wygant.
She's put all the stuff up on YouTube.
Yeah, there are
all her old interviews are up
Oh
there,
my
which is
God.
great. And we actually,
early Bill Paxton stuff, early
Yeah.
Tom.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
no, and we show them on the show too. So you
Yeah,
know,
we talk about her a surprising amount.
Wow, that's amazing. You guys are holding up Bobby Wygant.
yes.
There's a couple of good friends here in Texas that are in charge of her archive. Really good
Okay.
friends.
Oh, no kidding. All right.
So,
Well,
like,
those are the friends that keep us going then.
Yes.
Because literally I have used I think probably like at least a third of the episodes of our 73 episodes. I've used her interviews.
that's amazing.
So much so that we can do meta commentary on like what maybe her mood was at that time, or like, you know, like we know a surprising amount of information about this woman.
She was getting real thirsty for Sam Elliott.
Sure was.
She flirted with there's a good clip of I think her interviewing Harrison Ford, and you can just tell she's melting.
Right.
For a young Harrison Ford, like I'm like, this is great. She's
Which I mean,
who wouldn't?
who wouldn't? Really?
Who
Like,
didn't? Yeah.
I think we've had multiple people as featured guests on the show that feel the same. Anyway, but I digress.
How about that like 90-minute trailer? Good Lord. I don't remember. I think I cut that trailer, and I'm just sure don't remember it being that long.
That wasn't that bad. Believe me, if it's that bad, I would have commented on it. I always do.
God, it's very 2010. It just seems like now you've got to have like a 10-second, it's like whose attention span is 2:45 anymore? You know,
Which is weird because
Definitely,
Conan's still
wait.
watching Drive My Car.
I'm still watching it right now, actually. Yeah, I started it last night. Started it early enough that I wouldn't fall asleep, thanks to the advice of some friends. Still watching it. Very long movie. That's why that's funny. It's a very long movie. It's good.
I heard.
Someone that I was on Leslie Lee's podcast with, Ashley he's from Horror Vanguard, was saying that he's in the middle of a watch through of the longest movie ever made, and it goes on for 35 days. It's a 35-day movie, and most of it, nothing is happening. It's just like a straight shot of a boat. And he was saying that like at some point, I think there's like a little bit of action at one point in it, but like it's a 35-day movie, and just most of it is an image of a boat.
Yeah. You know what?
Is he going for a Guinness World Record? That might be
Yeah.
interesting to have the longest movie in Guinness World Records, but I don't know. Warhol was experimenting with that. Sleep. What was Andy Warhol's feature film, Sleep, where it was just literally his friends sleeping?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
At theaters in Manhattan, and people were paying for 2 hours to watch. It's like
That's the racket, man. Where's that job? I'm a champion sleeper.
Yeah.
I
know.
There was a time period it was definitely Warhol inspired, but there's been a lot of like experimental film, and it's not something that I'm a huge I like art house film when I do see it, but not that like installation style like experimental film. And I'm always just like, is this really what you wanted to put like a bunch of energy into? It's usually like grad students though, and it's like all kind of Warhol inspired. And like I remember like my mom worked at the local college, and she was working in the art department, and like a lot of people's like they would just put up these screens, and a lot of it would just be like people's eye like really close up, or like just like some fucking crazy
Most
shit.
of it's just
like,
eyes close up, really. I mean, I've spent enough time in the art world.
like 90% of that particular genre. Yeah.
crazy.
Well, I mean, that's how Jack Nance got his start. Jack Nance is, of course, famous for working with David Lynch so much. He got his start doing these kind of I forget the fancy term for it, but like it's like everybody stays
Eyeball
in
films.
character. Yeah, they're called eyeball films, exactly. Everyone stays in character for like days at a time, and it's like an installation. And like he did a whole bunch of those, and that's kind of how he ended up knowing David Lynch, and which would be really interesting, only because it's Jack Nance, who even like as a younger man, we've all seen Eraserhead, right? So it's like even as a younger man, it's like that guy was always a little odd, but in a good way, right?
Yeah.
The way that makes you a fantastic character actor. Anyway, are we doing intros? Or
So
might be a good idea to do that sometime.
hi, welcome to Movie Night Extravaganza. If you're listening right now, that's the show you're listening to. I don't know how you accidentally came upon it, but maybe the algorithm is blessing us tonight.
I clickjacked. What's this? I'm trying to get pornography.
I am joined by Jay Underworld. He's going to kidnap, somebody's grandma. Is it your grandma you're going to kidnap? Just any grandma?
Are we kidnapping our grandma live tonight? That'd be fun.
It's never been done before, folks. We're the only podcast that's done it.
My grandma's upstairs. We could kidnap
Oh my God. You have to play out in real time the kidnapping granny scene from Carried Away with your real grandma upstairs.
Oh, we intend to.
I feel like you could get away with that for a night. Be like, it's just for the podcast, Grandma.
No.
By the way-
It's for a
By
bit
the
for
way,
the show.
the Carried Away grandma, alpha free speech grandma. You know, you as Ed kind of, beta liberal, beta liberal Ed, but then there's alpha free speech grandma.
Oh my
You know what I
God.
mean? Like,
Texas
getting in
grandma.
there. Free speech warrior, really just, First Amendment, that's what she cares about, and I fucked with it. I did.
How did your family react to it? How did your grandma react to grandma's racist outbursts?
Yeah,
That was,
so
that was shocking to the audience, and we knew that it was in the original script. It was
Yeah.
Mom was adamant about keeping these elements because they are based on real family members, loosely, but very based on the Ed and Grandma situation is the most autobiographical in Tom Huckabee's life, the writer, producer, and director of this film. And
I have a clip of him when I'm done with intros. I have a clip of him talking about family and kind of what actually inspired the elements of this movie. But I should disrupt right here and say, Conan Neutron, you know him, iconic reversal, Conan Neutron and the Secret Friends, movie night extravaganza.
He did the theme music. He's
I did
available for weddings, bar mitzvahs, and
Exactly.
scoring your
They're
film.
cheap, reasonable prices.
He was, he originated on Armed Forces Radio, wanted to be a DJ, he's
Wanted
getting
to be a
fan
DJ,
mail.
Yeah, great. This is probably a record for quickest turnaround from watching the movie to being on the show talking about the movie, because I finished it seriously about 7 minutes before the show started.
wow,
Maybe like long enough to like change clothes. So
I rewatched the last hour and finished it 2 minutes before I popped on.
because again, as Andy adequately pointed out, I was still watching Drive My Car for like most of the day Sunday.
what a trip!
Just footage of stealing a car.
Yeah, yeah. What was next in the algorithm? People stealing cars.
I'm gonna have to check it out.
And we are happy and proud to finally be joined by Gabriel Horn. Been trying to get you on for quite a while, ever since Andy's birthday stream. Here, I'll cheers. I'll cheers to that. Here, I got my vodka lemonade thing.
Apparently, I got all the alcohol down here, so I'm in. Let's go.
But producer and actor at New Palace Films, star of this film, Carried Away. And you've done everything from documentaries to guest roles and things to you were at
To being a
TriStar,
guest in a movie
you were,
extravaganza, Dare to Dream. It's really quite the career path. Sorry,
I love it.
Yeah, please.
But you were at TriStar, right? For a while as a development person. I was reading on the website when it earlier.
Well, I developed for Trifecta Entertainment.
Trifecta. Oh, all right.
They it's okay. But it's great. Trifecta is all MGM television executives who I brought my ghost hunting show into. They didn't want to pay for the show, but they loved the show. And so I kept coming back at different phases like, well, I funded the pilot. You guys want to take it and fund the rest of it? And they were but I knew they could distribute. They were one of the biggest syndicators. They still are in the world. And it wasn't until I raised a quarter of the money that they thought I needed to put together 20 episodes and came back to them with the whole show. And then they're like, all right, we need to give you a desk. Just go have an office, make TV shows, do what you got to do. So for nearly 2 years, that's all I did. A day and night was just sling TV show concepts. And then when my deal was up, I went from that to Warner Brothers, CBS, other big production companies, moonlighting and different projects. And then I've been on my own for I don't know how many years now, and it's great.
And Ghostbreakers also had star of Carried Away, Brian Massey, in it as well.
That's right. That was our second collaboration with the older brother character, the Steve character in Carried Away.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah. And if I drug the Ghostbreakers crew out, oh God, you wouldn't be able to handle that. That's another show. But anyway, let me know if you ever want to do that. Because
we could do Nightcrawlers at some point, which I think.
Nightcrawler! Oh my God, that was the film. Nightcrawlers is the film that really connected Tom and I. We had met shortly before. We hadn't done Carried Away, and
because it's in Carried Away. That's
right. We use a clip. You are on it. You're right. The TV. Nobody ever knows that. Well, you are good.
Because I'm sitting there thinking like today, going like, wait, so Gabe exists in his own cinematic universe, and
that just happened to be
also,
one of our crew had our DVD that day. It could have been anything on the floor that we could get away with, and we had that Nightcrawler's DVD the day we were filming on the TV and realized we needed to show something, and it just worked out perfect. But yeah, but Tom loved, this was Nightcrawlers was virtually a no budget vampire comedy. It was Shaun of the Dead years before Shaun of the Dead with vampires in a small Texas town, and it was shot so well. Benjamin Wilbanks wrote and directed it. He's my partner on Ghostbreakers, and we finished the movie, showed it at some festivals. People loved it, and then Lone Star Film Festival was coming up here. I think 06 or 07 here in Fort Worth, and it was the first Fort Worth Film Festival that was it was the biggest one they've had, and it was founded by Bill Paxton and Tom Huckabee. And I just recently, in the last year or so, met Tom, and the week that Lone Star is going on, it was the biggest event Fort Worth's ever had, this one film festival. And Tom said, well, I love Nightcrawler so much, I'm gonna get you guys screened at the festival. The festival's happening right now. And sure enough, 2 or 3 days later, we had a screening for Nightcrawlers, and people came to saw it and loved it. And and Tom and I have just been connected ever since through stupid comedy and then just hyper intellectual drama stuff. There's almost like no in between. It's like, you got to be Buster Keaton or William Burroughs. It's like
You're basically describing this show, Gabriel.
It was. He would love this show. He would love this show. So anyway,
that's great. And of course, friend of the show, Bill Paxton. So.
Yeah. So I got speaking of Tom Huckabee, I got the clip of you guys doing promo at Dallas International Festival, I think. And right when the movie premiered, and I have a couple clips from it, but I'll start out with I think this is the granny actress. I didn't catch her name, but
Julie Erickson plays the grandma.
She was in Bernie too, I think. She's done a bunch of voiceover.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah. Just real quick trivia about Julie. She's been acting so long. She was featured background in Beach Blanket Bingo with Frankie Avalon, and she goes way back, like studio way back. And it was such an honor to work with her. She's kind of a legend in this neck of the woods, but she's amazing. Yeah.
She was awesome. I mean, she was. That's a great character just in general. But I mean, that was very, very well played, I thought.
Thank you.
Although her first IMDb credit is Heaven's Gate.
Oh wow!
Oh, there you go, Heaven's Gate. All right,
there you go.
Gabe, have you interacted with Linklater at all through doing film in Texas?
Being in the state of Texas.
Yeah,
it's a community. I feel like that all kind of makes other parts of the.
It does. I actually, before I got here to do this podcast tonight, I was with the mother Morgana in Carried Away. I was at her house here in Fort Worth, putting her on tape for Richard Linklater's new movie.
Oh, so killer!
Funny that you even tied this all, or how we tied it all in. But no, I've been in the room with him. I've never even shook his hand. I've been to a couple like film festival dinners where he was in the room, and just I just have never met Linklater.
Damn.
All the other big Texans, I'm pretty sure I've met, from Rodriguez and handful of others I've met. Troublemaker used to be.
Horn.
Yeah. I mean, there's a
time you're doing so great.
I don't know. Remember, as a kid, they'd always do like those things on the news, like famous actors who are from Texas, and they would have this big long list, and they always seem to end for some reason with Rip Torn. Was always like the last name they'd say.
I don't know how this is not the first time that this exact story has come up. I don't remember what the context was of it last time.
There's wasn't any context there either. I mean, let's be real.
we gotta have an Andy Explains playlist at some point.
That's a supercut. Oh, that's a great idea.
Yes.
Oh, only for the patrons though. Only the true heads.
All right. So what do we got here? Looks like an old interview.
So now tell me about your personal experience, being Granny, being able to have to tap into people with dementia and everything. That's hard, because you take it in personally, and then you all of a sudden at the same time realize what they're going through.
Well, I wanted to be true to Tom's grandmother, for one thing. He had to keep telling me to
Be meaner.
be meaner.
Oh.
And
I don't believe that.
Yeah, shut up. My father-in-law died from complications of Alzheimer's, so I've lived with it, and I understand the quirks of it. Anyone that hasn't really can't experience it as well. So I'm hoping that what we've done with it will show the ups and downs of it, how it manifests itself.
Yeah.
And affects not only the person with it, but also the people that are surrounding them.
Yes, because it's the entire family that deals with it and has to cope with it and everything. I think that is one of the prevailing and powerful messages behind the movie is the fact, you're looking into the life of this granny and then how everything else plays out. I understand also that there are other themes behind this and they all tie together. Kind of a neat play on words with Carried Away too. Describe some of those other events, and also are those autobiographical? I mean, are those your family members too?
Based on my family, there's only 3 boys in the movie family, kind of like the Bonanza. But and my family has also a sister, and there's 3 boys. But that was to underline the fact that it's not supposed to be an expose of my family.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be more kind of a universally dysfunctional family that any family could relate to. And then so I don't want, it's not my family.
Nice. Yeah, it's not a documentary, people.
Definitely not a documentary, but I could go into detail if anybody wanted clarity on.
Yeah, and also Gabe, I do music, and there's like press cycles for that, for new records, et cetera, and I kind of feel like some press you remember and some just don't. They become like a thin gruel of whatever. But do you remember that appearance? Do you remember like what was happening?
I remember Tom wearing that hat for a couple of days. I don't remember that actual moment. I just remember that hat there's a story behind the hat and how he ended up with it that day. And, it was he wanted a fedora. There was a fedora and we couldn't find a fedora. And that was like a friend of a friend. It was like pulling out of a trunk and we found this hat and he's like, I'll love it. And we're like, go for it.
Compromise.
I remember those things, but
yeah.
Well, I remember watching that video and not remembering anything that was said because I was staring at that hat.
We'd like to welcome our new sponsor, JauntieChapeaus.net.
No, but the interviewer seemed kind of nervous, and I've worked at film festivals as an interviewer before, like long before doing this, and
before I became a broadcast professional,
before I became an amateur broadcaster. No, but it is kind of a nerve-wracking experience. You're doing a whole bunch of different interviews with people over the course of the turnaround time is fucking brutal. And like the way that I did it, at least, I mean, I don't know if this is this woman's story, but like the way that I did it is I kind of did it through a college class. And like, so it was like, if you fuck it up, you're going to fail this college class. And that's how I ended up getting
no pressure.
Damn.
She also had Bill Pullman sitting on the off screen, making fun of her.
She had Bill Pullman mocking her off screen, being like, hey, this is you guys are live, right? You guys are filming this.
That's what happened to Forrest.
Pullman and Forrest have beef.
Next was great. He came to the premiere and at Dallas International.
This wasn't Paxton. I have beef with Bill Pullman because
Pullman, wrong Bill, different Bill.
Have you ever met him? Have you ever met Pullman?
Yeah.
Oh, that's where the beef comes from.
Oh, really? He was my neighbor in Hollywood for like 5 years.
It's not beef. He just was
sharper than he Pullman makes incredible margaritas, and
I'm not surprised. So I was in college. It was my senior year of college. I worked at Woodstock Film Festival, and They premiered his Ballad of Lefty Brown Western that he did, which was really excellent. And he ended up winning the award for it that year. And but like the final day of the festival, or one of the final days of the festival that I was at least working there as an interviewer, I ended up having to interview Bill Pullman. Ended up with one person working with me only, and we were supposed to be in like a team. And so I was working camera and interviewing at the same time, and had taking ADHD medication before the whole thing started. So I was like, it was like first thing in the morning. It was like 9 a.m. So I was just like really jittery, and I was just like, so he and the director were trying to list off all these movies that were playing, and I was trying to list them off with him, and he's like, this is live, right? You guys are filming, and my professor was behind me and just burst out laughing, and he was filming it. Like, he was filming me, filming him, and he was just laughing at fucking Bill Pullman, being like, this is live, right? Like you're filming this. Can you edit this out or something? He's like, I'm the one being interviewed, and he was like fucking with me because we were talking beforehand. And he was like mad cool, but then at the end, he's like, don't worry, I'm messing with you. I didn't really think or whatever. Like walked away, but that clip got played like every week for the rest of the semester.
Wow.
My professor would just put it up on the screen and be like, look what happened.
It's more like he clowned him than they have beef.
Yeah. But the clips, I have it on Facebook. It's still really funny.
Anyway, that's how we managed to make that about ourselves. So I hope you appreciate it.
No, but I was just trying to say, like, so in these situations where a lot of times they have people either volunteering or doing it through places, like they're not necessarily professional interviewers. So I don't, the fact that she's a little bit nervous during that kind of makes sense maybe from that perspective, but it is funny. Like, you never think that your clip is going to get played in the podcast like a decade later or something.
That's true. That's interesting. And also, you've been to enough film festivals, but everybody parties together. So, the first couple of days you start seeing people's, mental energy start to go into the gutter on day 3, and press. If you've got a proper publicist and you're doing press, anytime you're not in a theater, you're in front of a microphone or radio or whatever else. And so I think this was part of a multi-day press junket we were doing. So we would go from that room to the next room and sit down. They're like, okay, we're live. And then they just ask them other random questions. So
yeah,
I can't
90% of which are exactly the same questions as the last 4 people.
Some people did, but it's part of it.
It's you get your stock answers down, and then you find a way to make it interesting for yourself, right?
Well, that's exactly right. Tom and I we'd start little bits with each other between ourselves that were already rehearsed, and then we would get digs in and make comments about stuff, and so you just have fun with it. But that was a cool one. Carried Away was really cool.
I like the movie. I guess I should start with that. It was good.
Thank you.
Hey, you know what? Thought that movie sucked. Anyway, let's talk about it. But no,
I was thinking how awkward it would be if I did think that, which I didn't. I watched it and I was like, thank God this is like a good movie, because it would have been nerve wracking to like if I didn't like it to come on and like be drinking a little bit and be like, oh hell yeah, this is let me try to.
Looks like you're having fun up there. That's a classic thing you say to a band that like you need to say something to, but you're just you don't have anything nice to say. Oh, listen, you're having fun up there.
Like y'all are having fun up there.
Oh yeah, great sound.
Which is weird because I remember talking to the drummer from Richard Lloyd's band, the guy from television, and he was like having a ball playing the drums during the show, and he was just like just smiling and joking around, and he had a microphone, and he was just having absolute like everybody else was so serious in the band, except for him.
I mean, having fun is great, but if you're having fun up there, that's code. That's at least in my world it is. I don't know.
Yeah,
for you guys.
So how much?
Again, I made it about me. Fantastic.
But I brought it up to him, and that was kind of like now I'm feeling awkward about it.
That's all right. This is live, right? You can edit it out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he plays in television. It's probably fine. I think they know they're doing okay.
So I'm curious how much of this is written by Tom Huckabee and how much you were allowed to kind of improvise, because it does seem like your character really is you, like kind of like your story. You know what I mean? Like moving to like LA from Texas, like going into acting,
being the middle boy.
Yeah, so it seems like your character really is kind of based on your experience, and I'm wondering how much of it was your relationship with Tom and kind of him breaking down, knowing things about you, or and how much of it was kind of improvised, and how much of it was co-written by you, or if any of it was.
Yeah, that is a great question. Well, Tom wrote this script in like 1985, so the draft, when he pitched it to me, and was like, you got to check out this thing. It's a young kid. You'd be perfect. We could do it cheap and blah. And I read the script, and it was, they had 80s Ed found an 80s cell phone, like everything was, phone booths and everything was dated. And the opening scene, though, that my only question after I read it, which by the way, at the time, this will date it because it was probably 2006, I think, maybe early 2007. But Tom had MySpaced me. This is for real.
Amazing. No, I believe you. I remember.
We're like chatting and email and stuff. He's like, get on, I want to talk to you. So he's like chatting with me on MySpace. And it's like, really want you to check out the script. Maybe it's something we can do and be perfect, blah, blah, blah.
Maybe you can put me in your top 8.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's probably still there. That's amazing. I haven't checked to see Tom Huckabee's MySpace, but here's the funny part. So I'm like, yeah, send me the script, Tom. Cool. I'd love to read it. I'm thinking like I'll get a PDF email any minute or something. He tags me on MySpace where he had posted the whole script in one post. All like 92 pages, whatever, in one. So I sat there that whole night scrolling through MySpace, reading his screenplay on MySpace. And then I read it the next morning on MySpace because I don't think, for whatever reason, I don't think you could. I don't know. I couldn't download it. It was just it was annoying. I never told him how annoying that was because I fell in love with. I was like, this is really good. Like it hits all the marks. And but the only difference, I'll tell you, the only difference other than some technology updates, let's say, was the opening scene. It's the greatest opening scene I'd ever read. Instead of Granny busting out of the nursing home like we did, and she throws her walker over the gate and all this stuff, that was the big escape. Originally written, Tom had this helicopter shot with news footage and this chaos opening the film that comes over I-35 in North Texas, where the entire freeway is shut down. And the camera finally glides over and you see this grandma carrying her walker down the damn interstate.
Nice.
So that was the opening scene. So after that, I'm like, this is good. How do we shut? Oh my God. As a producer, I'm like, oh boy. So, but everything after that was totally doable. And
they also didn't have drones yet, right? Like in
no, I was saying it was like Tom. That was my question. I'm like, Tom, I love everything about it, but how do we do the opening scene? And so that's what we kind of struggled with. But to answer your original question, I'm a middle child also, and Tom and I bonded over a lot of family similarities, family dynamics. My older brother is not watching this right now. I wish he was. Andrew, you remember my older brother? He's very much Steve, which is very much like Tom's older brother in real life. And so there was these dynamics where the more I got to know Tom, he always told me that that we're the same person, but I'm 20 years younger and better looking, And so we just had these parallels, between our, us studying spirituality and these, he's real big into Civil War stuff, and I'm a John Wilkes Booth. I've been studying John Wilkes Booth for a long time, and he's been studying Abraham Lincoln for a long time. So when we met, it was like, wow, there's this guy.
It wasn't in the theater, was it?
but so we've just had so much in common that he felt so familiar and comfortable with me that he could kind of start talking more personal stuff. And the script was so personal. He was really close with some big studios in the 80s and even in the early 90s. He was real close to it even being a Hallmark movie. And so it just never worked out. And then I got him so inspired to do it. But here's the thing. I was supposed to play Steve. In fact, when I read the script.
Oh, wow.
I read the script. He didn't consider me Ed because at Lone Star Film Festival, we had become friends with Jason Ritter, John Ritter's kid. And Ritter loved the script. Like he loved Carried Away. And so when Tom presented it to me, like this could be a real deal we can do, he was like, oh, and by the way, if you dig it, we're going to send it to Ritter. And so as an actor and a producer, I'm like, oh, well, that's the next great role. So I was going to play Steve. I was going to play the asshole older brother, which would have been just as fun. But it didn't work out to get Ritter. He ended up doing, it was probably wasn't a very hard decision for him, but he went on to do like Fred Durst's movie. Like Fred Durst did a feature film that was, I don't even know if anybody remembers it, but it played on the festival circuit. It was like a real indie gritty movie that Fred Durst wrote, produced, and directed, and Jason Ritter starred in it. And so that took him out of that. And we had Cloris Leachman. We had we even made an offer to Betty White. We made so the granny after he bailed, or after Ritter couldn't do it, then I stepped up. Tom said, "You got to play Ed." I'm like, "Well, good, great, I'll play Ed." And so then we cast Brian Massey. And when Brian came in, I'll find this audition footage one day and just archive all this because it's so interesting. But Brian came into the audition the first time I had an interaction with him. He, the note for his character was that, he always has the sinus thing going on. You notice the sinus thing? He's always jacking the sinuses.
Yeah.
It's just a compulsion this character had where maybe he thinks he's always sick, this kind of thing. The cancer joke, which is not that funny now, actually. Or maybe it's irony.
I don't know. I laughed pretty hard when I heard that.
I'm only not laughing because I'm wondering if Tom wrote that because there was cancer in his family, or it's just it's a bizarre. Now that it's the first time it ever. Is oh shit.
It's bleak. It's bleak humor, but I still laugh.
But so there's all that. So Steve has this bleak humor, and a lot of it's about disaster and health and blah, all this kind of shit. He's just a shithead. But I wanted to play that role, and so we auditioned Massey. When he came in, he was acting like he had a cold so bad, like his nose was red. He had like Kleenexes and stuff because he was playing this character with a sinus infection kind of thing. He played it so well that when I came in, he tried to shake my hand, and he was like, "Oh, I want to meet you. And I was like backing away.
Right.
Like, this is before he went in to read. I'm like, I don't know. You gotta. And even Tom, he went in. It's on footage. He goes in there trying to shake Tom's hand. Tom's like, "Are you sick?" I'll be okay. I'll be okay. And he just nailed it. And then afterwards, he's like, we realized he wasn't sick. And and so all these little things they add, and the lady Morgana, who played our mom, just nailed it. And so the girlfriend role, the Sarah character, is the one that was toughest to cast. Followed Granny was the toughest to cast. Julie having so much experience, she nailed the auditions and the callbacks. But there was always this. Well, what about Betty White? What about Cloris Leachman? And once we figured out what that was going to cost to get one of the stars on our set, we decided, all right, we're going to keep this totally just regional all-star casting, and we're going to just make the film we want to make. When you work with stars, there's a lot that comes with that. Sometimes there's a lot of creative flexibility, even in the moment. In scenes, you got to change stuff because things, But I'm proud Tom had full control from top to bottom, from the whole edit to get out the picture he wanted. And he was super proud of it.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely shows. It's kind of, there's a lot of unique dynamics. I do like the universality of it. I'm kind of, I think I was too young to really comprehend this, but my grandpa had Alzheimer's when I was a kid. And, or I think Alzheimer's and not one of the two. I think he had Alzheimer's, but he was kind of deteriorating by the time I kind of could process what that meant. So like my memories of him, as a kid, I always hear stories about him, like really like playing with me, and like I was really sick as a kid. Like I was in the hospital for like a long time because I had caught like some meningitis type thing on a plane on the way to go visit him, and like almost died as a kid. Wow. And so I hear all these stories about him, like kind of taking care of me all the time because I was stuck down there in Florida. But like by the time I remember him, he had like deteriorated so much from dementia that I kind of just remember him. And then he fell at one point too. I kind of just remember him at like the late stages of it. But like there is that, I think, universality of a family member who everyone is like everyone like remembers what they were like and how much they kind of push through stuff, and those characteristics start to disappear.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this movie kind of resonates with that. But it seems like the granny in this is still really sharp. And it's still fucking with you the entire movie.
Yeah, like I like that it isn't immediately clear. Like it's sort of like it isn't definitively stated one way or the other. There's just little clues along the way, and it's like, oh well, maybe she's just she's just having a laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like oh no, okay, that was definitely for real. And then there's just the shocking usage of the N-word where it's like, oh God. Mm-hmm. Like every time, but it's like it's supposed to hit like that, right? Because we all have had family members. Well, not all. I shouldn't assume that, but I mean, most of us have had some family members that rock like that, especially when it's like older folks who just like, I don't care. Right. I'm going to do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, my grandmother, just celebrated St. Patrick's Day like she does every year by wearing orange because she hates the Irish.
Speaking of,
Wow.
yeah, it's interesting. There is truth into that. The Alzheimer's with the granny character in that Tom's real grandmother went in because I think I say it in the beginning, like she went in for knee surgery and came out a vegetable or something. That's a line that I think is still in the movie, but in real life, Tom's grandmother went in for a knee surgery, I believe, and something happened with something happened in the procedure, and she came out without her mind. And Tom was really young, like junior high maybe, and it just scarred him. Like, how could this happen? And obviously that stayed with him throughout it, but also I don't believe Granny ever got better. It ended up taking her out or whatever. So
I mean, my grandfather, after having knee surgery, like he wasn't an old man until he had knee surgery. And then, his hair went white and it didn't slow him down much, but he was slower. You could tell he was definitely slower than he was. I mean, he was still like at 90 climbing up on the roof to shovel off snow. Fortunately my uncle was always there. Like, get down, Grandpa, get down, Dad. I got you,
How did y'all feel about another great reason why there was so many really attractive, edgy elements in this material? I love the dynamic between Ed and Granny, and Tom loved it too because as much film and stuff that I've done, I've never until Carried Away, maybe on stage, because I did do It's a Wonderful Life. I think there was a kiss on stage. But I'm not the kind of guy that gets cast in the lead role, the romantic lead, right? And so I've never had an on-screen, I've never made out with an actor on screen for a role or anything, right? So when this came around, Tom was like, "Well, you're finally going to get to make out with an actress," right? So he was just jabbing with me with all these things.
Yeah.
And then I realized it's Granny, and I'm like, "This is
Right.
like this is perfect." Like, this is exactly what I want in my career. I want people to look at the clip and go, "This young actor made out with this, what?" So there was all these moments, but then when I read, in fact, that changed too. I don't want to skip too much in the movie. I'm trying to pick.
No, that's a great scene though. Cause like when you're watching it, you're like, oh, whoa,
Yes.
hey.
And, oh my God, if you're in a theater when that happens, it's just like, it just takes all the air out of the room, or people are just like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
Those moments when I read the
I
script.
didn't realize this was a French film. Am I right? Let me tell you.
Those are the moments that made me really passionate about working with Tom to get this movie made. And I think that scene, actually, we toned that scene down. And I think in the original drafts, there was a lot more making out. I think there's one or two more scenes where she like attacks me. One's in the car and I couldn't escape or something. That all got cut out, but the motel room, the nude scene got really concentrated, and boy, was that just.
They're both very effective too, and like the scene where she like, and of course for those that have not seen the film, spoiler alert, there's some Granny making out, but like the fact that her faculty, she thinks it's that your character is someone else, right? It's like from her perspective, this is like her husband that likes morning sex, right? So okay, cool, let's go to it, and that's a very clear indicator of like, oh yeah,
that's the moment, when Ed changes. That's the moment when he's like, oh God, maybe my parents are right.
Yeah.
But he ain't gonna fuck them. He's not gonna give in. No, you keep going.
Of course not. Why would you?
Well, and there's kind of a I don't want to say a bit, but it's kind of a thing that's gone into. I mean, I remember Mad Men kind of did something similar, but it's always the father figure and and his daughter or something. And I think Mad Men did it. I think I can't remember. There was multiple shows I've seen kind of from the early 2000s that did the reverse version of that and made it deeply uncomfortable. So you really do kind of feel that a character is really has dementia and is really losing their faculties in that way. But I think that it's kind of the fact that there is clearly this tension between you and Granny because you had lived there and it really, I mean, you know, turning like 17 and you kind of want freedom and you want to hang out with girls. And there's that great scene where you guys are going back and forth in the car. And she's like, why? Was it because you wanted to, you know, have sex with girls? You're like, well, that's part of it, but that's not the reason. Like, so there's these kind of deeply, I think, intimate, and then when you tell Sarah, like, well, we shared a room until I was 17. Like, so there's these moments where the relationship has clearly crossed these boundaries. Not necessarily on like, you know, through anything, but number one, because this is a controlling woman, you know, that's kind of mothering you. But number two, you know, also because, I mean, you're kind of thrown into the situation. So adding that dynamic to it, where all of a sudden she thinks that you're her, you know, her dead husband, kind of makes sense and makes it like it hits deeply to the core, I think.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. That was an amazing shoot. Those scenes, I like those scenes. And then there was a lot of happy accidents, we call them, like at the beginning when the dog gets the spaghetti.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Oh, that was like take 6, and it was completely accidental, and we just laughed our asses off, and we're like, that's the take. So, and there was a handful of happy accidents that happen in every production if you're lucky enough that you go, God, that was fucking good, use it, go. You know, so there's moments like that throughout. It was just a great production. Everybody was, I mean, we became a family real quick, you know, even though it was like I don't know, 25-day shoot or something from Fort Worth to Los Angeles. And of course, we stopped off north of Phoenix at Arcasante, the architectural commune.
Yeah, I love Arcasante. I was so stoked to see it in the film because that's such a great place.
Oh, it's amazing. And you can cruise through there. I think it's like $20 to stay the night or something. It's so affordable. And it's just you don't want to leave. You want to stay for days because there's so much crazy shit to see. And so he had an awesome vision for this whole thing. And yeah, we all became really, really good friends. Julie and I, she could go in and out of, you know, I could go in and out of Ed, you know, pretty easily, of course. Well, she would stay in Crazy Granny for a while. And so it took me a little while to get to know Julie's sense of humor. She's hilarious. Like, I mean, she's hilarious, always on, hilarious. But when we were filming, she would, you know, there's times I would just look over at her and I would wonder, like, okay, is this
for real?
Is this Julie being her age, or is this, you know, she was doing it so well, but she would jack with me. So this is what I knew that she, you know, was really Julie coming through in these scenes. And I'll give you an example, the nude scene, the makeout scene. Well, Tom's one note was just, Gabe has to be repulsed. Or Ed has to be repulsed, so repulsed that he springs out of that bed. Well, we did a couple takes, whatever else. I mean, yeah, whatever. It wasn't you know, whatever it was, it wasn't working. And then we took a break and resettled. And when I came back in, everybody on set knew that I hated French onion sun chips. So we're setting up for the scene. I'm ready. I'm there. I'm in the zone. I'm in character. And all of a sudden I smell this nasty shit. Julie, if you're watching, I love you. But this was funny. She ate French onion sun chips before what you see in the film. That was the take where I was repulsed. And it was just like, I mean, there was crumbs on my lips and stuff. And
it was like second stage revulsion then.
So, yeah, so actually there was layers of revulsion, right? That took me probably slightly out of character to, oh my God, now I'm and it worked. And Tom was like, moving on, we got it. So, but that's how we played with each other. You know, we do little things like that. Really fun.
Yeah, she's great too. And it's almost like, and I guess it's, you know, we're not going sequentially, but like skipping ahead a little bit, but like later on where she like has like, you know, the like the Lucille Ball kind of wig on and is going dancing and stuff like, and it's cool because you get to see her kind of both as a character and as an actress kind of show that this kind of more of a fully well-rounded human being than maybe you would think of just as like something to bounce off of in terms of the story. And then again, the mighty N-word comes in and it's like, oh,
yep.
Yeah, I was like,
wasn't that a great scene though? Wasn't that a great
It's such a great scene. And then his reaction is like, well, I'm out.
I could feel that N-word coming. And like for that whole sequence. Because
as soon as Jesse's Barksdale's name, the actor who was the Black Cowboy, I think he's credited as the Black Cowboy even. But as soon, I mean, the odds again being in the theater. Oh my God! When she looks up and she winks at him, and the whole audience is like, "Oh my!"
Don't do it! Don't
God,
do it!
don't do it! No. They grab hands or whatever, and it's like, oh God! Any minute, Ed's gonna have to fight somebody, or it's
yeah.
And you kind of play it well too, because you seem like pleasantly surprised that she's chosen to dance with Black Cowboy, and it's like, wow, she's doing it. And then when she disappears, it's like, oh shit.
That was a great scene.
Let's put it this way: Arcasante's in Arizona. It's probably not the first time he's heard it, but anyway. But no, that was a great scene. I liked it because it provided it shows depth to the character that you're told about in the script. Obviously, you can't show, except for the fact you kind of get her kind of like, activating these parts of her brain of like, probably like what she was like younger, right? Mm-hmm. And like having like, having a dance and everything that comes with it and whatnot. And honestly, doing better than your character, right? Which is hilarious.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Which also like one of the great things about that scene is just Granny is kind of the archetypical Texas Granny. And she really did and like race is very complicated, like in that scene. And I think that scene works in so many levels because like, it's not people aren't clear cut racists, like they were 50, 100 years ago. It's much more complicated now. And that scene, I think, really beautifully captures it.
Thank you.
I like the line where you're talking about how she used to change the channel. But you're like, unless it was Sammy Davis Jr.
or Bill Cosby.
Right. Yeah. Turn the damn channel. Yeah. It's not the two most famous black guys in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, they're okay. They're some of the good ones.
But it's like, it feels like it would be
Bill Cosby.
As it turns out, not so much with one of them. But yeah, that would have been what was said at the time. Yeah.
But it feels like it would be much more, sharp if it was like, every time any black person comes on TV, you change the channel, but it's like, well, there's two black, almost, I guess, respectability.
That's the gray area that Andrew was talking about. That there's racist people that happen to like Kanye or whatever. You get it. It's like it's
not cut or dry.
Nobody else but me. So
yeah, it's
weird.
Not, plain and simple. Like this person, obviously they wear the Klan robes because they voted for Trump and they don't like rap music or whatever two things you want to throw out there. No, it's subtle, it's complicated, it's messy. And they could even have black friends.
It's gradation. It isn't cartoon villainy, which I think a lot of times people just dismiss it outright as cartoon villainy. I'm not saying like, hey, go easy on the racist. I'm just saying that understand what it is. And
there are viewers.
Oh boy. All right. A lot of places I go with that. But what I am going to say is that, like, I think that, we live in a nuanceless time, right? It's either, my team, your team, whatever. So people are just very much like, okay, so if you're racist, you're on that side. And like, you are the enemy. And it's sort of like, well, cool, but that doesn't actually help society. Not to say that like you can make racist less racist. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. It doesn't matter. But it's not completely cut and dried that way. And I think that's an unfortunate part of our modern culture.
But I think that there's a lot of stories that really kind of jump on this generational divide, which I think this movie does very well. Where it's like, well, you kind of do give somewhat of a pass or some kind of a pass to older people. Like it's very common to just be like, listen, it was a different time, and even Ed says like, well, look, I know it was a different time, but that's not this time, and people don't tolerate that anymore. And there's this moment.
Yeah, just be like, that's, I don't want to be a jerk here, but grandma, that's not really your word to use. And like that.
I think that's what he says in the car. He's like,
exactly.
Different now. You can't go around. It's so true, though. I mean, it's so true. In fact, we showed Carried Away. Tom, it was important to Tom that we show. It was not my least, or it was not my favorite marketing angle, let's say, but it became really engaging, and I found I liked it. But Tom was adamant when the film was done that we do as many nursing homes as we can set up to show this movie to.
Oh, interesting. That's cool. I like that.
We would roll into nursing homes. I mean, we'd set it up, whatever, a screening for the whole nursing home community, and we would just show them Carried Away. Like they don't know shit about us or anything. And here's
a movie.
And we went back and showed it at what was, I mean, I don't think it's called Cherokee Rose in real life.
Yeah, I think it's Glen Rose something.
Yeah, right. Yeah, this nursing home in Glen Rose, Texas, and we showed it. And
which my mom used to go to and sing gospel songs to the people there.
Oh my God, Andy, I bet we all went and did that. Anyway, won't get into
conscription.
That.
Yeah.
I got traumatized going to the local nursing home with a church group and seeing like as a kid. I remember being really young and feeling fucking traumatized as fuck after
we
that.
all did that, but he was serious about it. And so for the first couple, it was interesting because it would. What I noticed was that this aging audience, watching a lead character as old as they are, I mean, Granny's character, it was fascinating, and people were they were responding to the movie in ways that they haven't responded to anything else in their life or even in the nursing home. It's like it brought people back to life for a couple hours, and they were excited about it, and they could relate to Granny and the racism and all this kind of stuff. And somebody pointed out. So I got to really like doing the nursing home thing. We only did like a dozen of them or something over a year, but it was still like always fun to go in. And but somebody asked Tom about the racist element, and finding this nuance. And I don't remember exactly what he said, but something like, just because it's black and white doesn't mean it's black and white. and I thought that was interesting, Tom's take on it. That there is, everybody's different. That doesn't make it right or this or that, but
right.
There's so.
Well, this movie's about coming to terms with family dynamics, that you're not ever going to 100% understand the people that are in your family. You're not 100% going to approve of the way that they've been, but a lot of times you don't even know things about them. So this movie feels like it's about discovering and coming to terms with that. And like I really liked the scene with you and the dad at the end of it, like Rex. What's the dad's name, right? And you guys are talking, and he kind of opens up, and you can tell that even though he kind of sent you away to Granny's or whatever, and didn't really know what to do with you, like he's still there's still this tenderness that like the Steve character is like aggressively not understanding the whole movie, where the dad's like, well, he needs money, so we're gonna give him the house, and he's gonna get this stuff, and he's like, that's not fair. Dad's like, yeah, well, who said anything was ever going to be fair? Yeah. And so there's like this tenderness that he treats you with at the same time as, your character kind of believing, like Ed believing that he kind of looks down on him and doesn't really know what to do with his feelings. And you're trying to kind of delve to the center of like, did he feel sad when his dad died? Like what emotional depth does my father have? And there's these like complex dynamics that, throughout the movie, you realize like it's going to end either, with you and the dad choking each other to death, which I'm happy it didn't end that way, or with this catharsis where you realize like, look, I'm not 100% in this, but these are complicated people, everybody in my family, and they're not going to go away. They're still going to be my family. Like, how do I deal with all those things at the same time?
But also just what a hot mess the whole family is. And at the end of the story, look who really kind of had it together. It was Granny and Jean, the mom. The mom was so cool about it all in the kitchen, drinking her wine, and then she's taking a bath. And
she got that set up, man.
Man, Calgon took her away there.
Yeah.
And then that's some queen business there.
Scattered as hell as she was. The men end up in a brawl, a big dirt brawl in the desert, and then I won't spoil it, but did that surprise you? Was that cool when Granny kind of saved the day?
Yeah, that part surprised me.
It was
that's a great turnaround. Yeah.
Thank you. That's one of my favorite moments in the movie. It's like, God, all of these guys are idiots. Everybody in this movie is a big idiot. And then Granny, who you think is the big idiot, really saves the day.
Right. Well, and it's great too, because like you also get to find out why the father's such a cock. Right. Because you're like, why is this guy such a prick? And like, oh, and then it's like, then of course, as is the case for anything that isn't cartoon villainy, there's a reason and rationale behind the story, and like all these like reasons he has that he just hasn't chosen to share. And you kind of get it all in like one big like, oh, this is a dude that doesn't talk. Right. So, but he's just gonna give you like the avalanche of rationale, because it like one thread that kind of led to another. Right. And then he just has that.
He got punched hard enough that emotional state.
He punched the emotions loose.
Yeah. Steve character knocked him out. I mean, that was awesome. I'm on the big screen. I mean, again, it took everybody's breath away. Like, he hit his dad.
Well,
You know, like,
and he has this epiphany too. That's like probably, you know, whatever they say, knock some sense into him, right? But he has this.
Everybody but Steve. It seemed like
right. Steve.
The last time you see Steve, I think he's like this.
Yeah, exactly. That guy's not gonna. Yeah. That's
brother.
Well, which I kind of wished, like after watching this, like Steve and Ed had more scenes together, because there was
I do too.
There was something magical. I mean, I'm glad you and Brian got to continue to work together, but something magical about you as Ed and him as Steve.
Well, I was gonna say is that like the thing that makes it work too, and again, not to spoiler alert anything for this movie, but like he finally kind of
we spoiled everything already.
Yeah, I was gonna say at this point, I think that train's left the station, right? Yes. But like he finally gets like, all right, let me run it by her, and okay, like whatever. And he walks in like assuming that she's gonna be like, no, F that, no way. And she's like, oh yeah, if you think that's best, cool. And he's like, oh yeah, oh.
Well, I got the, I got the feeling that he was at some points kind of using that as an excuse not to invite the granny to stay.
100%, of course.
Yeah. So in his mind, like he's like, oh well, it's not like my wife will ever, want me to do that anyway. And that's his, and so you get the feeling that like they don't talk to each other either.
Right.
He's kind of using his wife as kind of this excuse to not do these things that he knows he should. And he's like, well, I don't want to really cause trouble here. But I have this clip I want to play.
What does he say? Like, what do you do in the vagina monologues early on? That's like the sum totality of like what is
right.
Emotional opening up is.
But so this is on the YouTube channel, and it's only 40 seconds. But
okay. I do remember this day.
Slate 97C, look for real.
He was on the slate.
Well, look up. God damn it, Mark. What? Every time Tom, I can't work with this guy. You guys, my kid. I like you, Mark. You're a nice guy. But we are done professionally. It wasn't my kid. Tom, I'm going to kick his ass. Get off. Get away. Get away from me. Don't touch me. Stop looking. Look, hey, come on. Take it off, man. Come on.
All right, that's a wrap.
All right. Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's kind of how it was. There was one night out at Arcasanti when is this live now?
No.
Okay. All right, when we all got naked and partied and ran through the desert.
Nice.
I don't know if you can get away with that on a function now.
it depends on everyone has cell phones.
But this is how cool our film family was. That worked up carried away, and that was a great moment. I appreciate
you just got to go full Coppola and take on the unions, and then break away from them, and then you can run through the desert naked.
Hey, I found this. I should show the audience this because it's interesting. When we were trying to identify props, you're surprised when you're writing a script what. You've got to, there's so many props you write, you don't even realize it. When in production, you have to actually identify this actor's holding something. You got to provide that. So Granny's medication became a big deal. We didn't have a name for her medication. And then we're like, oh shit, well, we can't just, what do we do? So we started a whole website for this fake, let's see if I can get the camera, this fake prescription called Loxadril, which we just made up, right? Do you see it? Loxadril?
Oh yeah, nice.
And at one point, Emma Jo Franklin right there. This, I just found this in Tom's house. This is what we gave out, like the first 20 film festivals we went to. I'd have bags of these, and I'd hand them out to everybody I could. They're breath mints, but on the first like 200 bottles I put for rectal use only on the side. It would just confuse everybody. But what we never
I actually have the clip of you guys doing this.
Oh, you do? What nobody ever is it the audience shaking it?
No, well, you guys talk about that. This is that same kind of awkward film festival thing with Dallas Film Festival again, and you guys actually give this out on camera.
Oh, great!
Family.
And one of those underlying, I'll let you talk in just a second.
Go ahead.
Is one of the underlying things is that you can't just talk at your relatives, anybody in a relationship. You have to actually talk to them and have a dialogue and interchange before you're going to solve anything.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Well, I was just going to say that Granny's dementia is one of the uncontrollable dysfunctions, if you will, in the family. There's many more problems with the Franklin family, So, it's just
not all their fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Well, but yeah, it's multi-dimensional, very realistic. I think everybody can relate to, if not every character, somebody in this movie. And that's really touching our audience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. One of the biggest mistakes he makes, because he's working from a good heart into wanting to make his grandmother happier, but doesn't know how to do it really. And one of the big mistakes he makes is forgetting to bring her antipsychotic medication along.
Who needs that? Who needs
which
that?
I have to give you now.
Oh boy.
Lots
There it is. Yes.
They have it.
doubles as a breath mint.
Thank you for the souvenir. I appreciate it.
And everybody that comes to the movie gets one of those.
Yes.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I'm honored.
Yeah.
And let's see, you even have it all
And
marked
if you
up.
love the movie, you don't need to applaud. You just-
Oh, just shake it. Hey,
There you go.
I like the promotion.
We
That
did
takes it to a
that.
whole nother level. That's great.
We did that at our world premiere in Oxford, Mississippi, and people caught on to that really quick. And then they started doing it in other people's movies.
Right.
Yeah, being promoted during other people's screenings, which was kind of devilish. But
it works.
But it was
Yeah.
good. It was good subconscious marketing.
Exactly.
it
That's what you got to do. You got to go stealth.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. You beat me to it, but that was cool to see audiences shake these things in moments where they liked the movie. It got to be where any point in the movie they liked it. They're like, "That's funny," and it would just be this ripple of I'm like, "This is so bizarre but cool," and we just went with it. So
I saw on Twitter earlier, someone posted a picture of the end of a screening of The Room where they have everybody have the spoons. And there was someone that I guess had to pick up all the spoons, and they went, "I fucking hate The Room, and I fucking hate anyone that likes The Room." It's a picture of just a fucking a theater littered with spoons. I only bring that up to say, I think that stuff really does work. Like, people remember, whether it's something like The Room or whether it's like Rocky Horror Picture Show where they do stuff like that, like any number of kind of cult classics. Which, I'm curious to wonder if now that Tom Huckabee has passed away, is this movie going to become kind of a cult classic? Like, you were talking about how you might start going on a whole bunch of different shows to talk about it again, and your relationship with him. It would be interesting if this movie because I feel like it kind of, a lot of it resonates now more than ever, right? As Conan was saying, these divides get bigger and bigger, and one of those divides is obviously a generational divide. And I think that as we kind of confront more and more of these issues, that is something that people really have realized, especially in the pandemic. I think your relationship with your family is important. How do you square some of those? How do you square some of these issues that have gone on for a long time, like racism within your family, or a whole bunch of different things, like this disconnect really that people feel, not quite understanding their family not quite understanding them. How do you really square some of these things? That feels like it resonates now more than ever, really.
Mm-hmm. I agree. We had ideas for a sequel to Carried Away not long after we finished Carried Away. There was so much buzz and people were throwing ideas our way. And Tom and
Carried Away again.
Yep.
Or
So,
more Carried Away.
well, we're toying with an idea now. Just our prime cast members, because we're all still here, and Tommy is the only one that's left us that was involved in this production, and so we have been playing around with Carried Away further, and seeing if we can't. I'm going to be working with the cast soon to kind of identify the most attractive sort of storylines that could pick up with the Franklin brothers causing more chaos. But, we've got to have Granny in there. And so, I don't know. I don't want to give any spoilers, but everybody's still alive. Tommy has
Yeah.
left us, and he dreamed about Carried Away 2, just as much as any other project. And it's something that since he passed, I've thought more and more about. And the film itself is getting a lot of buzz now. And so we have screenings. I'm going to put it on tour kind of around the country and some places around the world to show it, along with taking Tiger Mountain Revisited, which was the first feature he had made with Bill Paxton, 19 years old. And
Bill Paxton's first starring role, right?
It's his first starring role, absolutely. Yep. And
Well, wait until you get that movie night extravaganza bump, and then you'll be talking.
we've got to do that one next, man, because not only do I want to watch this film again, it's so crazy, but it's especially the re-edit that he did before he passed away. It could play on HBO tomorrow and you wouldn't, other than a young Bill Paxton, even then you might be like, God, how'd they get Paxton to, it's.
Man, the de-aging technology is so good.
So,
Well, we watched.
It's good enough to be a sci-fi film right now, and it's more also like Carried Away. It's more relevant than ever. So I don't know.
We watched Edge of Tomorrow.
Okay.
And with an old Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
And it took me like a little bit. I remember talking about this when we talked about it with Erica. It took me a little bit to like register that was Bill Paxton, because we had just talked about him. I can't remember what movie we did. We had just talked about him with a different movie.
In a different way, yeah.
Yeah.
It was Aliens, right?
Yeah. So we watched Aliens like a few weeks before this, and we were doing like a whole Alien watch through. And then it took me like I had to watch it twice, and then I was like, oh shit, that's like an older Bill Paxton, like 2014 or something.
So good in that movie.
Yeah.
I got a thing. It'll be quick though. Of course, when we do the show, we do it live, and then we send out the various things to the various social medias to let people know that maybe you might be interested in watching it live, that we are doing it. I got a message on Instagram from this guy Britt, who was in this band Theater Fire, who is the band
yes
that is playing at the New Year's party.
Wasn't the music amazing?
Yeah, it's great.
It fit the characters. It's like the characters' own music. It's like the Franklin family soundtrack is this crazy band that's super talented. But anyway,
and he sent me this still picture right here.
Oh my God, there it is.
Which is awesome. Which is that.
And there's Tommy in the middle. Wow.
Yeah, so that's Tom. Oh, you can't see my mouse, because that's Tom in the middle. But yeah, like I got like and sometimes people will respond back, oh, cool movie, whatever. But yeah, this is the first time that someone's like, hey, I'm in that movie. And I'm like, oh, we're talking about it right now.
These guys are so talented and so smart. I couldn't even communicate with them. These guys are like on another level. They're just hyper creatives, brilliant artists, and boy, and other than like the core elements, the script staying the same, whatever, Tom had Theater Fire in mind almost right out of the gate. So
that's awesome.
He fell in love with them years ago, and boy, did they just kill. They made the movie sound so good.
So shout out to Britt, formerly of Theater Fire, and that's I think that's the first time that's happened. That someone who's been in the movie that we're discussing, IMs about it. So
hey, it's working. It's working.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing,
it works.
So we have one,
except for like when that person is on the show, like you or the other folks who we've had on.
So that's it. So I want to develop with our cast a script for the next Carried Away movie and put that in the lineup. And because Tom and Bill Paxton was such an influence on Tom Huckabee's life, and vice versa, and they both have just recorded history of each other going back almost to high school age, and Tom has so many short films that he had made that included Bill or with Bill, or Bill made with Tom, whatever else. And nobody has seen these. So that's kind of my job now, taking on Tom's intellectual property and managing it in a way where it won't get lost and it will get promotion and, continue his art legacy. So the thing that got me, I'll get a little sappy for a second if I can, because I've never witnessed cancer. I've never witnessed cancer firsthand like I just did, spending 7 weeks with the guy dying of cancer. And it just kind of hit me that of all the amazing shit that Tom Huckabee did in his life, and it goes way back. I don't know if you guys know about his bands. He was in the punk bands in Austin and writing The Fight at Rawls, where they got to fight with cops, and it made Rolling Stones. This was before he was like really pushing films. He was a punk musician stirring up crazy shit in Austin. And so he's just done so many fantastic, outrageous things in his life. And the only thing that could take him from that and take him from us was cancer. The only thing that held the guy down was cancer, and he fought it to the last minute. And so it just hit me that with all of this archival material, I would like to find a way in a documentary form to tell Tom Huckabee's story, which would include, so much of their early endeavors with Paxton and their videos and this and that, and the influences and how it all weaves into, ultimately what took him down. And Tom asked me to film everything of his death, film it all. And I don't know how some of this is going to play in, because some of it's very traumatic, but it just, I can't believe that so many people are dying of pancreatic cancer, and it hits you so quick. It hits you so quick, and then you're out. There's a 6% chance of any one of us, if any one of us gets pancreatic cancer, we have a 6% chance of lasting 6 months. Oh, and by the way, Forrest, if you want to get scanned for it, it's about 10 grand. So you're just going to discover it one day when it's too late, in other words. And it's just, yeah. I'm compelled to somehow include some of this in his documentary for some kind of an awareness, which adds the nutrition in my projects that satisfies me. And so this is a documentary that we're announcing right now on Movie Night Extravaganza.
Right, exclusive, baby.
Exclusive announcement. It's called Taking Tom Huckabee. And you can interpret that however you will.
Yeah.
Tom was not the easiest friend to have, the easiest creative to work with, or this and that. You could take him how you wanted to take Tom Huckabee if you could. But at the end of the day, cancer took him from us. And now there's this void that, we have to fill with celebrations of him. And
I'll clip this part of it and send it to you so you can use it for promotion.
Oh,
but
thanks,
I'm kind of, there's kind of a reminiscence of Bowie at the end of his life, when he kind of was grappling with cancer and did that. I don't know if you remember this, but he did the music video kind of like 2 months or something before he passed away, knowing he was going to pass away, where he kind of imagined his last album.
Yeah, that whole last album is about that. The videos are. I talked to Tony Visconti about it in Protonic Reversal. He had everybody under NDAs because he wanted to do it his way, which is, hey, I want this to come out when it comes out and be a complete surprise, and nobody knows anything about it. I don't want anyone to think of me as like a sick person or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta, whether you agree with the way of doing that or not, and that's everyone's individual choice, for a superstar at his level to be able to pull that off is pretty remarkable. Also, I'm not going to get a chance to say this, I'm sure. Bill Hicks also died of pancreatic cancer at the age of 32.
Oh, was he 32?
32. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
man. And we have advancements now. Bill Hicks didn't even have it. Oh my God, that's horrible. But yeah. Bill, another fellow Texan.
Exactly.
But but I'm like, as in the form of like creative project that kind of revolves around somebody's death from cancer and the wasting away and kind of grappling with that. I just wanted to, mention that as something, because I remember
that's a gold standard for me. That's sort of like, that's.
Yes.
Not looking to top someone's death, but I was going to say that's hard to top, but like, let's not maybe think about it that way. But yeah, like for consummate artists like him to
Warren Zevon kind of did the same thing too with his final album, but he actually was very public about his cancer. Yeah. And everybody knew this was his last album, so he got all of his friends on it. It's pretty good too.
I love the idea of Warren Zevon, and I even like some Warren Zevon music.
Yeah, I'm with you there. But his last album is like one of his strongest.
All respect, all love, etc. But anyway.
But I did want to say too, like, I always thought Tom Huckabee seemed like the kind of guy that was always like helping other people get their projects done too. And he's helped you a lot. you know, with Picasso's Christ.
Mhm.
He's a producer on that, and he's got other producing credits. I didn't know if you know, especially with like his relationship with he produced Frailty, yeah, which
Mhm.
which
Oh, yeah.
Frailty is an amazing film, and Bill Paxton just like that was his directorial debut and knocked that thing out of the park.
Mhm.
You know, with Matthew McConaughey giving like a late era Matthew McConaughey performance in the early era, which is kind of amazing.
The late era of the early era. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you mean, but it's funny to say that.
Yeah,
It was the
yeah.
start of like dramatic. Well, not really, but yeah.
Yeah,
it
no,
was-
this is like before because like he was still like the all right guy.
right.
Yeah.
And here he is doing like something to the caliber of his Oscar win, to the caliber of some of his performances in the past couple of years,
Mhm.
which people have been surprised by. But like, you know, if you saw Frailty, you knew he had it in him. But you know, Bill Pullman was able to Bill Paxton, sorry. Talking about Bill Pullman earlier, screwed me up. Bill Paxton was able to pull that out, and Tom Huckabee was able to you know, help that movie get off the ground, I imagine, since he was a producer. Did you want to talk about it, like a little bit of how Tom Huckabee was you know, always there for people to kind of you know, almost as a not necessarily abuse, but like the facilitator to get things done.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's a consummate creative, and Tom got joy. I do too. I love connecting people, and Tom loves connecting people more. So, you know, if you're a good person, he's an instant judge of character. You know, the guy can see right through you, and he's inspired by a lot. He's inspired by a lot. You know, he would, you know, he's seen your artwork, Andy. I showed him the early Picasso stuff that you did, the promo stuff, and he was just like floored by, like, it's incredible. And, you know, so, you know, if you guys were in any closer proximity, you know, or I've never met anybody that was so gracious with what he has, you know, like he had a Rolodex like no other. But he'd call on people for you. You got to meet this kid. He's got this crazy idea. It might work for so-and-so, or, you know, he just every project I would call Tom and run by him, especially Picasso's Christ. He was the first one. I walked around LA for weeks talking to people with this original sketch. I'm like, it's Jesus knocking on a door. It's freaky out. Before Tom came back into town, and I showed him, and he's like, well, you know, it's El Greco, Christ driving the traders from the temple. I'm like, what? I pulled it up on Google. There's the picture. It took him 5 seconds to identify the Picasso sketch. You know what I mean? It's stuff like that. It's like he's led me down some of the best avenues in my projects, and that's his nature. You know, he's not. You know, rarely he would ask something in return, although we did favors, you know, extensively for each other in the industry and such. So,
but those are some of the best people, though. That, like, not only are creative themselves, but like can see like, oh, so and so would dig this, and like, you know, you should talk to blah blah blah, et cetera, et cetera.
You know what? I realize that it's a confidence thing. You know, when you're not confident, you're selfish. You know, I don't want this guy to be more successful than me, or you're competitive. Well,
it's going to take something away from you to do that. Yeah,
Right.
that's a good point.
And I've never really been like that, and I found that Tom was so confident in the crazy shit that he did that he's not worried about y'all competing against him. And you know, it's very much man versus himself. That was Tom. He was competing with something in himself to go. And when Bill died, a lot of that steam, I watched a lot of, like, half the steam just go out. Like, I saw the guy physically deflate in front of me. Yeah. And you know, and that was hard. That was hard. He never really recovered from it, because the crazy thing is that the doctors, I mean, this is TMI, but there's a chance that the start of his pancreatic cancer, it's just in this window of when Bill died. It's just in this window. I don't know how that happened, but, you know, about the time Bill passed away is when Tom's cancer first started eating his body. And, you know, he wouldn't find out about it till, you know, 2 months before he died. But I just thought that was, you know, because it was crazy. Bill passing was so traumatic for Tom that I have this thought in my head that somehow that's what brought cancer on. I know it's probably not true, it's whatever, but it's, I don't know, just crazy. But did I answer anybody's question, or did I just ramble?
I think you did.
No. I mean, that's yeah. Look, it's fine. It's a heady topic, right? I mean, and it's
and I mean, you're still dealing with it too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm still dealing with it, but it's different now. I'm celebrating, and I'm just discovering so much. I mean, I found footage the other day from I don't even remember when Tom was filming me. I was over at his house, and he just was filming me, talking to me about art. I don't remember that 30-second moment years ago, but I found it the other day. It's there. And so there's a lot to go through, and as we bring on more people for the documentary team, then hopefully it won't be so difficult to kind of dig through this stuff. But
that's kind of one of the reasons I asked, like way earlier on when you had that video of that press junket piece, if you like remembered the individual ones. And here's the reason why, because I was thinking for myself personally, I've lost some folks very close to me in the past year and a half. One of them, the drummer from my old band, basically someone who's closer to a brother to me than my own actual brother, that I basically spent my entire 20s with. And so I found myself, what little footage, that there is, sort of like examining it like the Zapruder film or something, and kind of like, trying to call up old memories and things, of some of which were more successful than others. And,
Right.
And usually for the better. Like, he was a very funny guy. So I remember like some like asinine or hilarious thing that he would say, and like, that would make me laugh or whatever. And I'm really glad that friend and featured guest of the show, Eric Strout, did a little mini documentary of a tour we went on, and he's in full form on that one, and that's great to see. So it's great that there's like documentation of so much of him as a person, not just the work.
Right.
That I'm really interested to see what you do with that documentary, because I think that should be very interesting. He's an interesting cat, and in a way that, like, I don't know if there's a word for someone that also is an artist and creates art, but also like is like the connecting thread between people. I don't know if there's I would love to know what that word is, if it exists. But for everything I've heard of him, is like he is absolutely that dude.
Yeah.
And that's such a necessary thing, especially in this day and age of just everything being balkanized, and we're bought and sold all of our data all the time, always. If you're connected to anything, it's going to be whatever the featured topic is. Anything out of the zeitgeist is immediately destroyed by the algorithm. It's vital. We all have to become media. So I think that's, it's one of those bold things you can do. And it seems like he lived his life like that.
He did. Yeah, that's exactly right. He was doing collage art before people were really like digging collage art. And then it sat around and, galleries and friends' houses and stuff forever. And guess what's popular right now again? Collage art. When I was in New York in May, and the museums were full of collage art, I'm like, good God, is this back? Well, yeah, it's back. But
he's making an NFT of it, and he'll check all the boxes.
He was good about predicting creative cycles, or injecting his interpretation that would then catch on. I don't know, but he lived his life in tune with art and creativity, and that's one reason why we were just connected. Yeah.
Kind of, I guess, leading towards closing this, I have Tom reading his like a poem at the very beginning, or the very end, I think, of shooting, that I found online, and I wanted to play that to kind of go towards our final thought.
Is he like in a kitchen or something? Is he like in a kitchen?
Yeah, he's in the kitchen.
Okay, so let me tell you, this was before we filmed anything. This was the first start of production. So this is before this first scene went up, the first shot went up. Tom asked to gather everybody around to read this poem.
And it's interesting that you guys ended up putting it on the actual YouTube channel. And the title on the YouTube channel was a word from the director. Especially considering, I guess, that it's before anything even got shot.
God, how freaky. I haven't seen this since we filmed it right then. I didn't even know it was on YouTube, I guess.
Do some Wikipedia research on Valentine's Day, and spent better part of a couple hours today that I should have been doing something else, writing a little note to the cast and crew, which I printed 40 copies of and then left them behind. Since our printer's not working, I'm going to just read it to you. And it's done as such a prayer to St. Valentine. Dear St. Valentine, we are gathered here on the evening of your feast day to celebrate your martyrdom while making a movie about familial affection and the like of it. Many of us have left our loved ones behind in order to fulfill our professional commitment. We recognize that they too, our relatives and significant others, are sacrificing their individual needs in support of our collective and hopefully worthwhile endeavor. Furthermore, let us realize that the spirit of your day is not only reserved for those to whom we are closest, but for all humankind, as well as for our animal cousins and for the earth as a whole. Not to mention for your direct superiors in heaven, to which all glory must be given. I would like to end by paraphrasing a prominent American troubadour who wrote often and earnestly about romantic love. This is my own version of his song. And the prophet said, "O Lord, when we're down and confused, we don't remember who we're talking to. Our concentration slips away when those we love are so far away. But there's a rose in a fisted glove, and the eagle flies with the dove. And if we can't be with the ones we love, let us love the ones we love." And the Lord replied, "Don't be angry, don't be sad. Don't sit crying over good times you've had. There's a person right next to you, just a-waiting for something to do." And the prophet replied, "Thou turn our heartaches into joy. Consider this girl, consider this boy. Getting together, making it nice. They ain't gonna need any more advice." And all the people rejoiced. There's a rose in a fisted glove, and the eagle flies with the dove. If we can't be with the ones we love, may we love the ones we're with. In closing, dear sweet St. Valentine, let those with dirty minds cleanse them with your holy tears and martyred blood. Amen. Amen.
Amen. All right, now back to work.
Wow.
Nice.
I haven't heard that in a long time. That's beautiful.
It absolutely was.
Thanks for finding that.
Yeah, I it's I went through like the YouTube channel last night a little bit and tried to grab a few things that I found interesting. There was a few other like there was some shooting clips, but I think that we've talked through this whole movie, and I'm happy that we did.
Check it out. Tell people to check it out. It's going to expand now into some more platforms. But right now, I think we have a dedicated Vimeo page. I think you can go to carriedawaythemovie.com. It all routes it to either Amazon Prime or which we get money for that. So that's good. And Vimeo, we get that direct pay. But it's going to launch on Tubi and all the others in the next several months and, further get out there.
Well, wait until I wrap my Letterboxd review. Then you'll get at least one, maybe two people totally watching it because of that.
Is it on Letterboxd?
That aren't even on this show.
Yes. Yeah, Conan bump.
Exactly.
Is it on Letterboxd?
It's on Letterboxd, yeah.
Oh,
Andy already reviewed it.
Yeah.
He said this is my childhood friend.
Yeah, he made a special point of friend rocking it. That's what we call it. Be like, it's my friend's band. Like, right.
That's awesome. I appreciate it. And however I can help you guys, let me know. I'm going to be just carrying on. I have a TV series that starts really soon. It's called Greatest Prison Escapes.
Nice.
It's exactly what
What's it about?
Yeah, exactly. It's about this granny. But granny goes to
planet
jail.
Full of apes that.
Yeah. But it's a cool series, dramatic reenactments. I'm interacting with law enforcement and tracking down criminals to, get these stories. And Film Rise is the channel that, is producing the series, which is great. And so other than that, I'm going to spend the next year or so finishing Picasso's Christ, but that's another conversation. Andy, I'll fill you in later because it never
Come back to that one.
the dirt never stops showing up, but we're actually at a point where we can finish it finally, which is amazing.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And so
it's been like what, 7 years?
I bought the Picasso and started filming the first interviews in 2008.
By the way, you can get Film Rise on the Roku channels for folks that have Roku. We have like 4 of them in the house, and I'm a big fan of the wild, untamed wilderness of the Roku channels. I mean, there's a channel that's literally just Young Turks. There's a channel that's just Mystery Science Theater 3000 episodes. I love it's amazing. Like there's something for everyone.
Rocking the Roku.
Yeah,
you should check. Somebody told me there's a Ghost Breakers, our a paranormal show. Somebody said there's a Ghost Breakers Roku.
Oh, is there? Okay, I'll check it out. I would
love to figure out how that happened.
But I think that they should take the Mystery Science 3001. They should take that and the Young Turks, and they should have Jank. They should have Jank host like a movie show where he
and then Joel Hodgson can host Young Turks with Anna Kasparian.
I don't know. Maybe for Patreon though, we could take Ghost Breakers and Mystery Science 3000 it.
Ooh,
yeah.
There you go.
I was thinking also we could at some point, if we wanted to do we could do a Carried Away screening on because it's on Amazon Prime. We could do
we keep threatening to do this and we never do it. We talk about it a lot though.
Well, yeah, you have to talk Forrest down for doing Showgirls like on on our Twitch channel. So it's like no, we're not doing Showgirls.
Anyway, Film Rise is on Roku. So if you have a Roku or 4 of them as I do, I even tell my dad how to use it. Like you can look on the Roku channels for that and add that in. And
I bought my grandma one a couple months ago.
After you kidnapped her, right?
after Andy and I kidnapped her.
Was that before or after the accidental makeout? Yeah, anyway.
No, I'm
thrilled all the way, son.
I'm really thrilled, Forrest, that you showed your grandma Carried Away. That's really special. Like that really makes me feel good.
Yeah, she was here and she watched it today, and I said, I was like, hey, like I know Gabe that like starred in it, and she seemed to not register that, and then my mom was like, he knows the star of the movie. She was like, which one? And I was like, the guy that started the movie is coming on my podcast tonight.
Does your grandma think you're cool, or is she like, Forrest does these things in the basement?
He's real busy.
I think it's more of the second one. But she's like, "Oh, you're getting paid for them yet?" And I'm like, "No, but
you could be like, kinda."
I mean, I get I get $30. Well, after they take out the money that I sent to a couple different podcasts, I get like $30 a month or something. This it's the
keep it growing, dude. Keep it growing. You guys are doing good.
It's growing. It's just it's still got a little ways to go, and I'm very broke. I'm just like Ed in Carried Away, the movie that we just talked about.
Professional segue. That's why people come to the best movie show on the internet is for professional segues like that.
One of my favorite little subtle moments in Carried Away was when I asked Granny for money in the car, and she's like, I got a couple $100 on this. I'm like, that's it?
Yeah, that is awesome because there's the logistics of like when you're running away, right? Like
it's like Ed was just assuming Granny has all the money in the bank. Right. Let's go.
Yeah, of course.
They've cut Social Security that much.
Yeah. That would have been a good line. Damn it.
All right, I'm gonna.
If you ever do the sequel, that one's on us.
Yeah.
All right.
2 carried, 2 away. Yeah, there's your line.
There you go.
I'm gonna cut it here. I enjoyed talking about this. I enjoyed watching it. I'm happy we did. Join us on Tuesday. We're going to be talking to Joseph McBride about my favorite Coen Brothers movie, Barton Fink. I'm sure that's controversial because I think everybody has a different favorite Coen Brothers movies because there's so many amazing
ones. One of my favorites too.
I've always just I've just loved the phoniness of Barton Fink's like the common man, and then it turns out he detests the common man. I just always found that like fantastic. But yeah, thank you for joining us on this Sunday night movie night extravaganza. You know, Gabriel Horn was on. He's going to be doing all these different, interviews about Carried Away.
Go see it. Go see it on Vimeo, Amazon Prime, like whatever. Just go on your internet and type in Carried Away and wait till you see this guy's face.
And it's not the one from 1996. It's the one from.
That's true. Not the Dennis Hopper version.
Yeah.
No other movies are allowed to have that title.
Dennis Hopper Kidnaps a Grandma is not a movie I want to see.
It's definitely a wildly different movie. Yeah.
Granny wants to fuck.